7 principles for building a house in your organization, your business, or your church. And then he says, God blesses houses of honor. And, whether it be a husband and a wife honoring one another, right? Is there anything worse than watching the next generation not honor their mother and their father, right? And have you ever noticed you don't have to teach children to dishonor? We naturally do it. And I think this is important, especially as we think about the next generation. So we have to model it, but we also have to demand it. That's my philosophy. There's nothing that frustrates me more than the amount of dishonor that we see within our culture. And especially when you think about the next generation, because they're just going to be, following an example of their parents and all the things that we see online. But I brought it up this weekend. But whether you're at Walmart, whether you're at the movie theater, or you're driving down the road, I think for teenagers to not honor the senior adult or the adult of any way that's driving behind them or walking up to the theater or pushing a cart in Walmart. Just the lack of respect that is often given. And you think, well, why is that? Are they acting in rebellion? Well, we're all born with some sense of rebellion. But I think a lot of times it's because they haven't been taught the value of honor, the importance of honor, and even how to honor. Because they don't have anything against that person pushing the cart, right? They don't have anything against the person that they won't get out of the street for, right? But they have no honor for that person either. And I think that dishonors God. Because I think if we don't know how to honor one another, it makes it very difficult for us to position, because honor is about position, to position ourselves in our relationship with God. So here's what he has, as some principles. You can, think through what your own might be, but so these are not necessarily the best or whatever, but I just thought it was interesting. He's executive pastor at an effective ministry, and so I assume that he's had success with these in some way. He says, first of all, honor people when they don't deserve it and despite their inadequacies. And he gives us an example when David honored Saul, right? Saul was trying to kill David. He was trying to take him out. And yet David had the opportunity to respond in kind, and he didn't, right? Because of the position that Saul had. Think about how intentional you have to be to honor those who have mistreated you. Think you're at the service desk at Walmart, right? And they're in a position of authority, in a sense, in that environment, or the clerk, but they won't return whatever it is that you brought. It's like, and your 3 little kids are standing there watching you, right? And it's like, how am I going to respond in this environment or in this situation? Think about the way that you talk about, whether it be folks here at the church or whether it be, officers or whatever in the front seat of the car when the kids are in the back of the car. And let's say that the officer gave you, had a wrong attitude when they came up, as far as, which, I'm sure we have all experienced from time to time. What are they learning? Right? Because, the ability to honor even when we feel differently is an incredible gift to have. Because it's not, right? It's not natural. It's not easy. Number 2, he says, make allowances for one another's faults is a way of honoring. He says, Colossians 3, since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourself with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. Make allowance for one another's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. one of the ways in which to forgive is to keep a short an account. The longer you hold something against somebody, the more likely you won't be able to forgive them because it's stacked up, right? So when you feel offense, it's very important that then you confront that. You can do it kind, you can do it patient, because if you don't, then you're going to get to that which kind of will get between you and God, which is unforgiveness. It'll harden your heart. Here's the way I kind of judge it. I judge it by saying, when I can't sleep over something, then I want to deal with it. If it keeps me up at night, then I want to deal with it. That's not always easy to do, but it's a way of honoring that relationship, right? As opposed, I think one of the most dishonoring things we can do is to feel one way and act another, because that person is unaware of how you really feel. And eventually they're going to know how you feel, right? It's your spouse and you're tired of the way they've treated you, but you've never really, you never dealt with it. And then one day you unload and they're like, what? Yeah. Right? Or if you're leading people, you ever had somebody who, came up and quit and they told you all these reasons and why they quit, but they never told you while they were there? And that's, even if they were mistreated, it's dishonoring for us to not let people know, right? Because if I honor you, I want you to know, because I have hope that we can work through it or things can be changed. If they can't, right? You don't see it my way or whatever, right? If we can't work it out, then I can make a decision, but I've honored you in the decision I've made. Therefore, I'm positioned to be blessed by God. Whereas if I dishonor you in the decision I'm making, even if the decision I'm making is right, I'm still out of position to be blessed. So I think that's important. Number 3, be first and be quick to apologize. Matthew 7 says, you hypocrite, take the plank out of your own eye, then you'll clearly be able to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So like I was saying, keep short accounts. Be quick to apologize. I think apologies take real ownership. An apology is not, if I offended you, I'm sorry, right? If they're confronting you, you've offended them, right? Now, that's the tendency we want to do. Why? Because our skin doesn't want to admit that I offended you. Because maybe I didn't mean to offend you. That's possible, right? I offended you and I didn't mean to offend you, right? But it's not if. I did offend you and I'm sorry that I offended you. And isn't it funny how the skin has a hard time even admitting that you offended somebody, even if you didn't mean to offend them? That's why we put that if in there, right? Because there'd be no other way. It's one thing to say, I am sorry that I offended you. That wasn't my intention, but I clearly did, and for that, I apologize. It's totally different than saying, hey, if I offended you, I am so sorry, right? It's because it's like, well, you won't look at me, and you turn away. I must have offended you, and I'm going to own that I offended you, even if it wasn't my intention. And it's amazing how difficult our skin has with that. So I think when we apologize, it's important to own it. Don't apologize just to end the discussion, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's okay, it's my fault. And you're really not receiving it because in your mind you're thinking, yeah, it's my fault, but it's my fault because you're an idiot leader. You know what I mean? Or it's my fault because I didn't have enough money, or it's my fault because I didn't have enough time, or it's my fault, right? But I'm just going to claim it so as to end the discussion. Because here's the thing. If there are times in which we submit, but when you have conflicting ideas that you do not work through, it's never going to lead somewhere positive, right? Because when I say, hey, I'm going to own that, but I really think you screwed up, right? Or I really think I didn't have enough money to do it, or I really didn't think I had enough time to do it, or I didn't have enough help to do it. If that's really my thought and we don't have that discussion, can't you see how that's going to haunt me in the future when you ask me to do the next thing? Because I'm thinking you think you screwed up. You didn't manage your time right. You didn't manage your money right. You didn't make good decisions. All right? I'm assuming that you have said, I got it, I blew it, that you really got it and you blew it, not that you blew it because I didn't do something, or the church didn't do something, or the business didn't do something. So it's a lot better. Again, we might not come to the same agreement. Doesn't mean that we're always going to agree, but it at least allows the leader, let's say it's me, to address what you think the real issue was. You think you didn't have enough time or enough money or enough help or enough support. Well, let's talk through that. What would a support look like to you? How much money do you think you would have needed? Right? And then we can talk about it and we can work through it. It's just that as a society, even as Christ followers, we're not good at communicating. And we just rather not deal with it. It's because that's going to be stressful. And I'd rather deal with tomorrow's stress of finding a new job. We don't think that in our minds, but that's what we're saying, than deal with the issue that's in front of me in the moment. And I just encourage you, and the same thing is true if you're married. If you don't deal with it, it's not going to disappear, right? Sometimes spouses will do with that. You're right, I blew it just because I don't want to deal with it. But you're not going to forget it if you don't think you blew it. You just not. Number 4, he says, have reverence. Oh, I like this one, for the lead pastor and his wife. What's interesting here, and I hadn't heard this before, but he talks about reverence being different. Like there's respect, there's honor, and there's reverence. And he talks about how he feels that with his parents. He says, reverence is a special kind of respect, and I have reverence for my grandparents because of the place that they have in my life, the trial they have blazed for me, how they've loved me, cared for me, and helped to raise me. I believe this is what must happen in organizations, especially churches. He says there's a unique weight and pressure and responsibility for pastors and their wives. You have to settle the fact that God has appointed the leaders. You could say that for anything, the leaders in your life. Once you do that, you can usher in a whole idea of showing what he calls reverence. And he says this is one of the ways in which we can build a culture of honor. And I think it's not just true for church, but if you think about it in your home, right? If I honor my wife, I'm creating a culture in which my kids are more likely to honor my wife. If she honors me, they're more likely to understand that. If I'm always dishonoring her, right? If we're always yelling at one another, right? If we never apologize to one another, well, then we're not going to build. Think again what a great opportunity you have if you're a parent, right? You get the opportunity, and for us as a school and for our next gen ministries, just think about if you train, raise, disciple, mentor, whatever parent, whatever word you want to use, a child to value honor the people in their lives, right? As they grow and they get older, right? Think about the impact they can have at school. Think about the impact as they get married. It's just such a huge impact, but it's not an easy thing to teach because it goes against the skin, right? The skin desires to be honored, not to honor. And so the best way to do that is to think, how can I model honor for the next generation, right? Not a pretend honor in order to get on somebody's good side, because that's not really honor either, is it? If I'm trying to manipulate you to do something for me, that's not real honor. No, real honor is I'm honoring you. Number 5, he says supervisors, so the leaders deliver to the ones you're leading, right? Supervisors over-deliver to your subordinates. I'm not a big fan of that word, but so he says we're going to flip the script. If you're the supervisor, if you're leading people inside a business or a church, then you are to over-deliver to your subordinates, the people you're leading. He says he heard this from Jack Welch when he was running the largest company in the world. His philosophy was to over-deliver to his customers. They didn't want to just deliver. They wanted they didn't want to just do a good job. They tried to surpass expectations for their customers. I think to be a great leader and manager and supervisor of people and to build the house of honor, we need to think about how can I over-deliver to the people that I'm leading and serving in my organization. When someone on our team that you're managing is struggling, they're going through a difficult time, this is an excellent opportunity to over-deliver. They're going through a difficult season. How can I over-deliver? When someone in your team is at their worst, as where I want you to be the best for them. So much of leadership is just being intentional, right? We have natural, and as we train ourselves through intentionality, that which we do naturally becomes more effective. How many times have you heard like police officers say, we just, in the middle of the chaos, we had to trust our training? I wonder, is that why even as Christ followers we struggle so much because we're so poor at training? You think about it. What kind of wife or husband are you when you just trust your training? Like how much training have you done as a spouse or as a parent? Right? When it's chaotic and the kids are sick and the car's got a flat tire and one of them's got to be somewhere and at work you're tired and you got in trouble because you didn't get something done, right? And your finance, right? You got all of this going on and you're just like, you're just going to go with what you go with. How effective is that? Because how effective that is, because we excuse it, don't we? Hey, I'm sorry, I'm just so tired. Or I'm just so busy. Or I got a headache. Or, right? So think about it. Our training is what is preparing us for those chaotic times. How are you training as a spouse? A parent? A minister? Number 6, he says, stop. Dishonor. He's talking about on social media, right? And he says, I want you to listen to the Apostle Paul's words from the letter, what he wrote to Timothy. He writes, remind them of these things and solemnly charge them in the presence of God not to wrangle about words. He goes on to state, which is useless and leads to the ruin of its hearers. He says, here's a picture of my mind where if I've been dishonoring people on social media, I see an old friend and he's walking towards me. And I've got an essential message that I want to share with him. The most important message I could ever share with this friend. Then as we're walking towards each other, I'm talking and I'm starting to share this vital idea with them. I see him, but he's pointing to his ears like, hey, I can't hear what you're saying. And I think about the message as a Christ follower, the message of the gospel. It's the message of what Jesus did for me. But because I've been wrangling with words and arguing with people on social media, my friend doesn't know Jesus and he can't hear what I'm saying. Because I've ruined his ears. And then lastly, submit to one another based on gifting, not position. And again, that's showing honor for one another. It's showing honor for the gift. It's showing honor for God's call. Just because you're the leader doesn't mean that you always have to lead. Right, in the sense of being the one with the ideas or being the one with the, So think about it. How often do you submit to someone based on their giftedness? Not because you don't want to do it, not because you don't have the time to do it, but because it's clear to everybody that you're honoring them by submitting to them because of their giftedness. Or their calling. Because if you think about it, in a lot of ways, many folks in the congregation would be in a position maybe of authority in the sense that they hold a position in the community that would be above that which you and I hold. Or their financial situation might be beyond, where we might find ourselves. And yet they come and they submit to your calling and your giftedness. Right? That's a great picture of honor. And again, a great lesson for us to teach the next generation. And, about how we could do that. He says in any organization we submit to the boss or whoever holds the highest position on the org chart. I want to flip that. It's not always the boss who is the most gifted in any particular area. God blesses a house of honor. As a leader, you have the opportunity to create a culture of respect in your organization, home, school, business. The hope and the prayer and belief are when God looks down and sees a house, a church, a company where honor is present, God will place his hand up on it and bless that place. So let's be intentional. And not just here in the house, but in all walks of life. You know, the hardest part, I think, is that we are always trusting in our training that we never do. You know what I mean? In other words, it's like I can go to Walmart and say, I'm going to get out of the car and I'm going to go here and I'm going to train myself in honor. I'm going to look for opportunities to hold maybe a door open for a senior adult. Well, I'm a senior adult. Maybe somebody will open the door for me, all right? But right, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to honor the people I come into contact. How many different ways can I do that? So that the next time I go into Walmart in a rush, I'm still honoring, you know? So let's think about how can you train yourself to be honoring to your spouse, to your kids, to your neighbor, in this house? Because wouldn't it be great if we didn't just create a culture of honor within the church, but within all the environments in which we do life?